All right, welcome everybody. So exciting news. It's just been one hell of a run. So today we're going to talk about MSTR. Is a new all-time high coming. Bitcoin clearly is smashing new all-time highs. And at the end of the day, it feels good to be right, doesn't it? The fact that we're here in this community, we're winning, we're right, and we made the right decision. So this is great news. So I'm going to get into possible predictions for Bitcoin moving forward. We're going to talk a little bit about MSTR, all-time highs on the horizon, what price points we need to break. And going to jump in and hear a little bit from Saylor and his wisdom about Bitcoin and his moves with MSTR. So not financial advice, not tax advice, not legal advice. Jumping in the game here. And yes, happy Friday to you. What's happening there, Jeff? Good to see you guys. So Bitcoin smashes 118,872. It went as high as, surges to an all-time high, my friends. Multiple all-time highs this week. Incredible news, right? Incredible news. Now, just to think, back in July of 2024, Bitcoin was at 57,899, and it reached almost $119,000. I mean, round of applause, right? All the naysayers out there in the marketplace, people like Chanos trying to short MSTR. Don't bet against Bitcoin. Don't bet against MSTR. All-time effing high. That's right, TC. So exciting, huh? Exciting. This is what we held for. This is what we waited for. And congratulations to all of you for being right. Nearly $1 billion in short liquidations wiped out bearish positions. So $1 billion in shorts completely obliterated, smashed, wiped the hell out, guys. Traders who bet against Bitcoin lost big. Exchanges saw the largest short wipeout in 2025. And when shorts die like this, that's when the price runs up. So will we go higher or will we have a correction? We will see. 57K to 118. That's 100% gain. Bitcoin has doubled since July 2024. Look at the pricing there. Institutional investors, better regulations, major boost in the marketplace. Saylor's company, let's not forget about Michael Saylor. Almost 600,000 Bitcoin, leading the way, leading the charge, and continued to persevere. And Strategy did not buy Bitcoin this week. So we hit an all-time high. I bet he'll be smashing the ATM over the weekend so that Monday he buys a lot more Bitcoin. So this is good news as well. One man, one company, about $69 billion in Bitcoin. MSTR is now one of the biggest Bitcoin players globally, certainly the largest corporate player on the face of the planet. Larry Fink and his IBIT is still crushing the game as well, and we'll get there in just a second. Strategy is shaping the marketplace, my friends. Prediction markets are targeting $160,000 Bitcoin by December. Of course, these numbers change. A week ago, we were not at all-time highs, so people had different viewpoints. Now we're at all-time highs. It's like, oh, it is possible we could hit 160, we could hit 180, we could hit 200. So there's new possibilities flying. Of course, when new all-time highs get hit, people change their minds and viewpoints. Traders believe Bitcoin has room to grow. Treasury strategies plus upcoming events equals a bullish setup. Betting against Bitcoin is a dangerous game, my friends. So altcoins and miners saw major gains as well. So it's nice to see that they're joining the party. And there's some things kicking off there. So it's not just Bitcoin winning. It's altcoins. Bitcoin miners are in profits. Crypto-linked stocks are booming. So the markets are booming right now. And it's very exciting. And so the next milestone that we're looking for is 120,000. If Bitcoin hits 120,000, what does that mean for Strategy's price? We shall find out. I think Strategy was tipping the scales that I saw at 439 today as the highest. And let's remember that Strategy has hit an all-time high before during regular trading hours of approximately 473, I believe. And I believe it was on November 20th of 2024. And then in the after-hours market, Strategy hit as high as 543. So I would personally be shocked if we did not hit past 543 this year with Strategy. And I personally believe we're going to go higher than that. Not financial advice, but that's my personal viewpoint on it. So pretty exciting to see that strategies nearing all-time highs in regular trading hours. That would be 473. It needs to break. Could this happen sometime in July? We'll find out. If it does, it'll be very, very, very exciting. So well done to all of you for holding, for being patient, for being smart, and for not getting trapped up in the naysayers or the negativity or the media or people shorting strategy. And it pays to just stick to one's convictions. It pays to know and have knowledge about this stock, to have knowledge about Bitcoin, because when you have knowledge about it, you can be very responsible with it and you can be in control of it. And I think the people who bet against MSTR, such as Chanos, and I never like to see people get wiped out or lose money or anything. So it's not that I'm against somebody like that. I just think that somebody like that did not really know fully what strategy is and did not spend the time to really get the knowledge of what strategy is. And the cool thing is he's a believer in Bitcoin and he likes Bitcoin, but he shorted strategy and I'm sure he got his ass kicked with it. And that's what happens when you don't really understand what you're investing in. And while we know strategy is very volatility is a huge piece of it. It goes up, it goes down, it goes all over the place. But it's the reason why I bought strategy, because I wanted these turbocharging, skyrocketing gains, and certainly have had it. So wherever you bought in, not tax advice, not financial advice, not legal advice, wherever you bought in, I'm sure that you're pleasantly surprised with it going up today. I bought in strategy at $79 back in 2024. And I bought in large positions there, large positions at 120 and positions around 140. And then I also bought in positions at 330 with strategy back in a couple months ago, when we had maybe 4 months ago, when we had strategy at 330, and I bought in right before it dove. You remember when we dropped all the way down to 230, was it? So I bought in then. We dove all the way down, but I just held because I knew we were coming back. And now we went from 230 up to 439 today. So it's fascinating to watch. I'm a huge believer in what Saylor's doing. I'm a huge believer in Bitcoin. I've been following Bitcoin since 2018. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2018. You might not know this about me. And I bought mining equipment, in fact, in 2017. So I actually mined my first Bitcoin, or maybe it was 2018, had no idea even what the mining equipment was, didn't understand it, but it sounded like a cool concept. So I actually got my first Bitcoin ever by mining it. And since then, I've been following it, watching it, investing in it, and certainly have experienced just this great ride. But also, let's not forget, the ups also have the downs. So we're running up right now. Could we continue to go up, smash through 120 and continue on? Yeah. We could also have a pullback. It's possible we could have a pullback, and we know that this is how Bitcoin runs and this is how strategy runs. So let's celebrate it for now. And the indicators are super good, and that's what I look at. We're in July. We're close to 120, and the indicators are incredibly good. So you hear lots of predictions of people talking about, Bitcoin could hit 150 this year, 160. Some people talking about 200K. The indicators look good for higher than where we're at right now. So that's the positive about it. And as Saylor would say, let's hear a little bit from the man, the myth, the legend.
I'm going to run a bank in heaven. Being did. Now God comes down from heaven above, and God says, okay, I've decided to solve your problem. I'm going to run a bank in heaven. I'm going to issue 21 million God coins, and they're infinitely dividable. And I'm just going to go ahead and do this for you for just about nothing. And you can telepathically move the coins between each other to pay off your debts. And I'm going to make sure that no bank, no government, no counterparty, no country, no criminal takes your money away from you. And I promise never to inflate it. I'm just going to, so there's your money. There's your bank. It's a bank in heaven. Right. And a person can hold a gun to your head, but you've got the money in your head, and the angels will, protect you. They might murder you, but they're not getting your money. So if I thought about that, I'm thinking, okay, God is going to run an honest bank for me. Okay, good. That's probably good. But in the absence of God offering to run the bank, and protect your property rights forever from everybody, the next best idea is we create a piece of software using cryptography, and then the software instantiates in the protocol 21 million coins subdividable by 100 million, so 2.1 quadrillion satoshis, which is effectively enough. You could subdivide it more if you needed to. We create that system, and now you can send 1,000, 100, 1,000,000, 1,000,000,000, 10 billion, $100 billion worth of that from anybody to anybody without asking anybody's permission using a computer. You can hold $1 million in your head, $1 billion in your head. You can hold it in your hand. If you know you're going to get arrested, you can just zap it to your sister in Singapore. If you don't trust the bank in New York, you can put it with the bank in London, right? And if you don't trust any bank, you self-custody. That's Bitcoin.
So brilliant. Very, very brilliant. And to answer your question, Jeff, am I holding or is it time to take some profits? So I'll give you my overall viewpoint. It's not recommending anybody financial advice to do anything. I just give you my viewpoint. So for Bitcoin overall, I'm just holding it. So we can get to the end of the year. If Bitcoin goes to 200K, I'm not going to sell my Bitcoin. I don't have any plans at this point to sell my Bitcoin. So for me, my personal allocation initially in the beginning of 2024 was the majority was in Bitcoin. The heavy majority was in Bitcoin. And I had a bunch of Tesla. And so in February of 2024, I decided to start selling my Tesla and load into MSTR. And then as I started to dive more into MSTR, because I've been following it since 2020, I bought my first shares in 2020. As I told some of you, I sold out those shares. And then I bought back in at 2024. So when I saw MSTR in early 2024, I decided to sell all of my Tesla and dump it all 100% into MSTR, which MSTR smoked Tesla in making that decision. So it was the better decision. In doing that, my MSTR bag has become a bit bigger than my Bitcoin bag. So my plan from the standpoint of just Bitcoin is I'm willing to ride it all the way up. And if we have a bear and it goes all the way down, I'm willing to just hold my Bitcoin and do that. MSTR is a different beast for me. So my personal plan on that is that at some point I will take profits on MSTR. It is not now, I can tell you that. And at some point I will take profits because of the volatility that if we do have a run up with Bitcoin, and it runs all the way up, saying October, November, December are the typical peak times with Bitcoin, October, November, December. So let's say we peak out. Historically, we've seen the pullbacks massive in the bull runs, 80% drawdowns, right? Some say that we may not see this, this time because of Bitcoin Treasury companies, because of institutional adoption. I'm going to say we're going to see some pullback is my personal thing. But with Bitcoin, I know the game. I know where we're going. And so the idea is from a long-term viewpoint on Bitcoin is I subscribe to Saylor's philosophy. I do believe that we will see one day in 2046, as he has the prophecy on, that we will see Bitcoin at $21 million. I do believe that will happen. I think that's aggressive, but I think it's real because it's a 29% growth rate over the next 21 years in 2046. So to think that Bitcoin will not do 29% over the next 21 years, I think it's a very logical to say that it would. Is it bullish? Yes, I think it's logical. To think that we won't hit a $10 million Bitcoin, I think we're definitely going to hit a $10 million Bitcoin. So either way, you do the math, and whatever Bitcoin one is holding right now, like me, I'm not going to give up those gains, and I'm willing to stomach the ups and downs of Bitcoin over this bull run if we go into a bear, and over the next 4 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, what have you, and just hold my Bitcoin and let it rip. So because I've lived through the bull runs before, right? So I'm familiar with that. I know what it feels like when it drops, and I know what it's going to do. And I'm positive from my own viewpoint that Bitcoin is going to be higher 4 years from now than it is today. And when it hits the bull run in the end of 2025, I believe 4 years after that, or 4 years, 4.5 years after that, we're still going to have a higher Bitcoin price. And so I'm willing to just hold because of my conviction in Bitcoin. Strategy for me is just a different animal. And we do know, and I do know just from my experience of watching it go up and down, that if we do hit a bear with Bitcoin, strategy could tank by twice as much. And while we're seeing it in the moves right now as Bitcoin's flying up and strategy is not going up twice as much right now, it's very well possible that when Bitcoin goes down, strategy could go down twice as much. So I will take profits. I'm heavily, in profits right now because I bought at such a low point. But with that said, I'm not taking profits right now. And when I do, I'll let you know. But my plan is to just hold on and see where we go with the bull run right now as it relates to strategy. And then that's my plan. And I see somebody here talking about MSTU. Yeah, MSTU and holding these things for the long term. Obviously, you have the slippage on these things like MSTU, Sahaya. So I do understand on that. I also do some trading. So even while there's slippage on that, I do some trading and I pick up profits. Like this week, I did some trading and picked up some profits. But that's not with MSTR. That's with things like MSTU that are meant to be traded. And I do have some positions in that. I definitely don't recommend that anybody fly into something like that without, understanding what they're in. And obviously understanding that that's more for a short-term hold, even though I've been holding some of that for a longer period of time and just trading in and out of it, most recently doing that. So that's just my viewpoint on what I'm doing. And I like the game of trading. I think it's fun. It's obviously a very risky thing to do. One needs to know what they're doing and just have a system to do it. But at the end of the day, the majority of my money is just hold it in Bitcoin long term, hold it in strategy through the bull run, take some profits at the end of the bull run is what I'm going to do. And that's the game. So that's where I'm at. And wherever you guys are at, I hope it's serving you and I hope you're doing great with it. We'll continue a little bit on here of what's happening. The next milestone, of course, for Bitcoin is 120,000. That's obviously a psychological point. 120,000 is, it's a round number. If we hit 120, could we go higher? We'll see. But it's so unpredictable right now with what's happening in the short term because there's such big moves and the shorts that were liquidated over $1 billion. It's like those shorts get liquidated and it just pushes the price higher. And that's what we're seeing right now. So could we have a pullback? It's possible. Could we go higher? It's possible. I'm not going to predict short-term trends. I just know over the next 6 months, I believe Bitcoin's going higher and strategy's going higher. So Bitcoin's up, strategy's up. Very good news. MSTR, they're using their ATM financing, as we've seen with Strike, Strife, Stride. I'm sure he's going to hit the ATM with these products coming this weekend. When the stock goes up like this, it's a great time for him to hit the ATM with common shares for sure. So he might do the ATM with common shares, and I'm sure there will be some Stride or Strike or Strife issuing this week, and strategy will buy more Bitcoin, which is great news. So we like to see it. Going all in on Bitcoin paid off for MSTR. So there's been many people supporting MSTR along the way and jumping on the train, but a lot of people still don't know what it is. And let's just remember that. Ask your friends out in the marketplace and be like, hey, do you know what MSTR is? They'll be like, Mr. Who? Mr. Who? I've never met Mr. Who. Who are you talking about? Most people have no idea what MSTR is. And I ask people every day when I talk to them, hey, do you know what this is? No, I never heard of it. Never heard of it. You should check it out. Just check it out for educational purposes. So is it risky? Yes. Is it rewarding? Massive. Is it going to all-time highs? Potentially. Again, during the trading day, it's all-time high is 473 as of November 20th last year. After hours, it's all-time high is 543. So that just gives you an idea of if you're looking at strategy, and if I'm looking to take profits at some point, which I am, my viewpoint on it is we're going to go past the previous all-time high that we hit. We're going to go past the previous all-time high in after trading hours is my viewpoint. And we'll see where we go after that. And do I think we're going higher than that? I do. So that's what I'm planning for. So Bitcoin's rally lifts the NASDAQ as well. Wall Street's moving too. So it's not just Bitcoin. Bitcoin's strength is definitely impacting global stocks. NASDAQ hits its own record high. Crypto's no longer just an outsider. It's in the big leagues at this point, and it's being recognized as the 5th largest asset on planet Earth right now. And analysts point to macro and regulatory shifts. Whatever that means is just in simple terms. It's like we got better regulations where more institutions now trust Bitcoin and they trust the crypto markets. We've got things like the M2, the money supply continues to go up. So there's more liquidity in the marketplace. And we've seen that Bitcoin is following this money supply. As the money supply continues to go up, Bitcoin's on this lagging indicator where it moves like 3 months later, it catches up to the moves of the money supply. So it's like 3 months behind, but it's following the money supply. So the more liquidity in the marketplace, the more people get into risk on assets like Bitcoin. And we're seeing that happen right now. So we are sitting in a really good environment for growth, and betting against Bitcoin is risky. Don't fight the trend. Bitcoin is the trend right now. Its momentum is fantastic. The shorts just lost $1 billion, and fighting Bitcoin is like swimming upstream. So that's the basic message of today. We hear from Saylor. He just says, just get in, man. Just get in the game. That's it. Get in, right? Get in for the ride. One of my friends just texted me today. She's like, I just bought a Bitcoin for the first time. So I'm excited for her to get in the game, which is cool. New Bitcoin all-time high. Strategy posts this. Time to celebrate. And it is. It's time to celebrate right now. So everybody should be celebrating. I know we want to see really great things in terms of the future, and we'd all like to see Bitcoin go to 180K this year, but let's not forget where we came from. Last July, it was at 57,000. It's now at 118,000. It's a double. It's a double. We've got 100% growth going on over the last year. That's pretty damn significant. Pretty damn significant. So this is an exciting time. BlackRock, their Bitcoin ETF surpassed $80 billion in assets, becoming the fastest ETF to get there. That's insane. That's insane. Now, BlackRock owns more Bitcoin than Strategy owns. BlackRock's up at about 700,000 Bitcoin right now. 700,000. Strategy is at 600,000. And if you watch my video the other day, the fees that BlackRock is taking off Bitcoin, it's their largest, one of their largest fee generators from any of their ETFs or funds is Bitcoin. Out of like 1,900 different funds, the third highest fees they get is off their Bitcoin ETF. So do you think BlackRock's going to continue to buy more? Absolutely. Absolutely. And yes, Anthony, our time has come. Bitcoin and MSTR, the time has come. Bullish year, my friends. Michael Saylor says the halls of eternity echo with the cries of those who sold their Bitcoin. And this is true. This is very true. And if history repeats itself from Bitcoin news, just look at the graph and the trend in 2020 to 2021. It goes down and then it shoots up to 69,000. If you were around during that time when we shot up to 69,000, I lived through that time. It was a fun time. And then we dropped all the way back down to 15,000. So let's not forget that too. But look at the trend. We dropped and then we shot up in 2024 to 2025. We dropped down, and this is a price target of 250,000 here potentially. Very, very bullish target there. Very bullish. I would be very happy. I would be very happy if Bitcoin got to very happy. I would be happy with an exclamation point if Bitcoin got to 180,000 this year. I would be happy. If Bitcoin broke 200,000, I would be very happy. So that's my personal viewpoint on it. If Strategy were to break 800, I would be happy without an exclamation point. If Strategy hits close to 1,000, I'm happy with an exclamation point. When Strategy breaks 1,200, if that happens, I'm very happy. That's my personal point of view. Okay, so let's see what happens. And a lot of this, there's a great video. I'm going to recommend you guys go watch it. It was with JLD and Matt from Bitcoin Magazine Pro. You should go check out some of James's video. Go search something on the NAV premium for MSTR. So if you want to see the potentials of the ranges of where MSTR can go, I'll do some calculations on this and do a show on it as well. But there's so many factors that determine where MSTR is going to go. One is Saylor continuing to buy for sure. So it's the quantity of Bitcoin that he stacks up. Two, of course, is Bitcoin's price. So that's a huge indicator and probably the leading indicator for sure of where strategy is going to go. So you have Bitcoin's price, you have the amount of and quantity of Bitcoin that strategy buys, and then you have the NAV premium of, you know, how much of a premium it's trading to its Bitcoin holdings. And so you got to look at those indicators to see where strategy could potentially go. And then if any one of those indicators drop, it affects the price. If any one of the indicators goes up, it affects the price. So you look at those three things and you just pay attention and you go, you know, where are we headed with this and what's the potential range that we could land in? And so it was a great video with JLD and Matt from Bitcoin Magazine Pro, where they had a nice chart that showed the potential there. And of course, James from Invest Answers had a nice one too. So it just gives you a range to think with. Does anybody know what's going to happen with it? No. But can you have predictions and ideas of what potentially could happen? Sure. I think one needs to mock up their own ideas based on the data they have of where is the potential place that they want to either continue to just hold or just eventually take profits with MSTR. So not financial advice, but that's my perspective on it. Michael Saylor says BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF IBIT is a monster. It is a monster because it's eating up all the Bitcoin. It's literally gobbling and gobbling and gobbling and gobbling and gobbling the Bitcoin, which is great, which is super great. Yeah, so TC saying most people don't trust MSTR when I explain it to them. I understand that completely. Somebody's buying options on it. MNAV is at 1.88 is what TC says, which is cool. Why is MSTR moving less than Bitcoin? No more leverage. Yeah, we'll see if it gets back its NAV premium. I think it'll get back it's already trading at a premium. So let's just call a spade a spade. It is. Is it trading as high as it was in 2024? No, not even close, but it's still trading at a premium. So that's exciting. And we just saw huge moves that happen. And we'll see what happens with strategy, and we'll see what happens when strategy breaks through its all-time high, which it has not hit yet. So 473 would be the day trading all-time high would be what strategy needs to break through. And so if it breaks through 473, let's see what happens next. $119,000 Bitcoin any minute now, says Bitcoin News. This was posted earlier today. And then we have a little chart here that shows Bitcoin is the holdings of Bitcoin's treasury. So when you look at, actually, I should say MSTR's treasury. So MSTR's treasury here in terms of their value is higher than Meta. So when you look at the treasury value, like Meta's cash compared to the treasury value of strategy is now larger than Meta, which is freaking significant, guys. Significant. Let's not forget that strategy 5 years ago was $1 billion company, and now it's anywhere from 110 to 120 billion dollar company. That's massive. That's massive. Nothing stops this train, says Chris Mullis. Cool. Jeff Walton says, conserve your energy, get some rest. Bitcoin will be where it is tomorrow. Control what you can control. It's going way higher. Act like you've been here before. And then we have another one, which is interesting from Chris Mullis, says, for every $1,000 that Bitcoin appreciates, Strategy's balance sheet increases by $597 million. $597 million. So Strategy's balance sheet went up by billions of dollars this week. Billions of dollars, which is huge. So overall, that is the weather and the sports and what's going on. And it'd be nice to hear.
To be successful. And if you just want Bitcoin to be successful, when you hear the Bank of Shanghai is rolling out a Bitcoin ETF, custody to the Bank of Shanghai, you would say, that's great. That's going to give access to Bitcoin to 1.5 billion people in China. Okay. And they're going to buy a bunch of Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin is going to go up to $10 million coin. So here's the question. Do you want the billion people in China to be rich? And do you want to be rich while the Chinese government still has a bunch of laws that you may or may not agree with? Or do you want the people in China to be poor and you to be poor while the Chinese government has a set of laws that you don't agree with?
Pretty easy.
Or do you think that you're so great, you're Superman, that you can just go and topple the entire government by barking on Twitter? It's like, I just don't think, right, that you're going to topple, an entire sovereign nation with your ideology. So
Oh, good. Okay, so we're still here. I thought for a second the stream ended. You guys still here? Yeah, good. Okay. We all still here? Great. Okay. So yeah, Kevin, I'll give you my perspective on MSTU just so you know on it. Okay. Here's my viewpoint on it. One, it definitely has slippage over time. Two, holding it over time where it goes up and goes down and trades sideways is going to create a mega slippage. With big moves up like this, it catches up. But over the long term, if one's holding MSTU for like over a year, they're going to be massive slippage with it. So the benefit of something like that is when you hold in the short term and it has massive gains, it's going to win. But over the long term, as it's chopping, it's going to lose. It's going to lose in value. So I started trading it, and I've been trading it, over the last year. But I've started heavily trading it this week, making up for some of the slippage on it, and then just reinvesting those positions back into it. So I'm going to continue to trade it. That's my plan. All right. And over time, as I continue to trade it, it will, my game plan, I'm doing pretty well with it this week. I had a great first 3 days trading it this week, and then I had a horrendous day trading it today. So, but overall, I'm up this week. So I hold my Bitcoin, I hold my strategy, and then I do a little bit of trading with MSTU. But not like, we're not talking about significant amounts of money that I'm sitting there with MSTU. Maybe I'll trade, in a given day, like 5% of my portfolio, and, play around with that. So that's the game. But you got to be careful with these leverage ones, because they do have slippage and they do lose value over time. And if one was just holding MSTR long-term, then MSTR would probably outperform it long-term, particularly when you have big downturns. So when we had the hit and we had the downturn that happened in February or whenever it was, January, like if you were holding MSTU, which I was, that sucker went all the way down. And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to sell out of this thing now. And then it went all the way back up, but I've been trading it most recently. And in trading it most recently, I'm recovering a bunch of the slippage, and I'm going to hold it, and I'm going to look for the right time to exit on it and pull it out, and then invest either back into Bitcoin or invest back into MSTR, depending on what time I pull it out. But I'm definitely not holding MSTU. I'm not going to be holding this thing for the next 7 months. Make sense? Okay. Overall, if anybody's wondering what MSTU is, it's a leverage play on MSTR. It's great holding for the short term. It has slippage over the long term, and that's the downfall of it. If one doesn't know about it, it's super risky, super vegan volatile, and of course I don't recommend anything on this. Okay, so that's my viewpoint on it, Kevin. Hope that helps you, because you asked and I want to answer the question. All right, so with that said, let's zoom out for a second. Let's take a look at the bigger picture on things. So number one, the market and the sentiment is good right now. Number two, zooming out and looking at the bigger picture, it's always good to look out at the future and go, what do I actually hold here? And as I look at Bitcoin and I compare it to the current scene, because I operate on the basis that whatever statistic I'm looking at, it doesn't mean anything unless I compare it to another statistic. So when I compare things, I always like to look at traditional finance, and then I compare it to what I call the new world of finance, which is crypto, which is Bitcoin and strategy for me. Okay. And so when I look at these two things, now strategy is not crypto per se, but it holds freaking crypto. Okay. So when I look at the future, I compare these two, and I'm like, the current scene in the financial world of the current financial products and how they perform and how the money system is built is not good. And when we look at just basic fiat currency, which means by decree, which means by statement, which means because we say so, that's what the majority of the world is trading in and holds. And that's what our economy is built on, which is something that the government says has value. And I keep coming back to this point because it's a very significant point and it's a very important thing, because when one looks at the fundamentals of why I'm in Bitcoin, I look at the fundamentals and I compare fiat to Bitcoin, and there is ultimately no comparison. And I look at things like bonds and I compare them to Bitcoin. And I look at the S&P 500 and I compare it to Bitcoin. And because the old system trades in fiat and the old system is based on fiat, and fiat is not backed by anything, and we know that currencies have collapsed through historically since the beginning of time, civilizations have failed, currencies fail. And you can trace this all the way back hundreds and hundreds of years and watch the collapse of currencies. So when we know that at some point the dollar is going to continue to get weaker and weaker, like it has. There's more money printing every single year. The dollar will lose 98% of its value over 100 years. And so when we look at the fundamentals and we zoom out and go, it's great to see a run up in Bitcoin today. It's great to see a price movement of 7,000. It's super excited to get excited about it. But if you look 10 years, 20 years into the future, there is no comparison. It's like owning fiat, which is being in a rowboat that's filling up with water and you're going to sink to the bottom, versus having the principles of something like Bitcoin that is finally an asset that is actually worth something on planet Earth. And if the second best thing is gold, which there's 2% more gold every year mined, there's 2% more gold, then that means that gold loses 50% of its value in about 34, 35 years. So if gold's second best and it's going to lose 50% of its value in 35 years, and it's going to lose another 50% of its value in 35 years, and at the end of 100 years, gold's going to be left with like losing 80-something% of its value, and that's second best, then the traditional world of finance is old, it's outdated, and it's in trouble. It's just in trouble. And it's not sound, and it's not based on truth. And who even knows? I was watching the movie Blood Diamond last night with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was talking about the whole diamond marketplace. And when you look at even that marketplace, nobody knows the supply of diamonds on the face of the planet. Tons of it is probably stored in vaults somewhere, and there's probably a huge abundance of diamonds, and there's only so much they put on the marketplace because they want to keep it scarce, and they want the appearance that it's scarce. But are diamonds really scarce? I don't think so. And then with gold, the fact that 2% more is mined every year, and we don't really know how much gold is actually out there, I don't even think that gold is very scarce. There's probably vaults and vaults and vaults that countries are sitting on that they haven't even that haven't even been revealed. There's what they say they have and what's probably there in secret that hasn't even been revealed. So I don't trust the governments of the world. I don't trust that the gold they say they have is what they have. I bet there's more. And the people who are mining the gold, I bet they have a ton. So who knows if they have it locked away in closets. So when we look at things that have been scarce in the marketplace like gold, is it really like it's scarce, but how scarce is it really? When we look at diamonds, how scarce is it really? And then finally, we have something like Bitcoin that's based on a ledger, right? That is, you can't change the ledger. You can't falsify the ledger. And if you look at the downfalls and the reason why Wall Street is so distrusted is because look at the number of companies that have doctored the books and the fines they've gotten for doctoring the books over the last couple decades alone. Because they doctor the books, they lie. So when you look and you zoom out and you look at the fundamentals and you go, what actually are we sitting on here? Well, we're sitting on the basic fundamental of Bitcoin that it's actually real money. It's the first real sound money that while the rest of the world is losing its value, like the dollar's losing its value, gold's losing its value over time, like they will lose their value over time, Bitcoin will do the opposite. So when you compare the old world of the rowboat of traditional finance to the rocket ship of Bitcoin, and then, when you look at strategy, attach multiple rocket boosters to the rocket ship. That's what you got, strategy. But when you zoom out and you look at the fundamentals, there's no comparison. And it would be obvious to anybody who put them side by side to look at the properties and go, is Bitcoin for real? And is fiat for real? And is gold the future? And gold isn't going to compete with Bitcoin long term. It's just not. It's an antiquated, outdated form of value. So it's just not. And so Bitcoin will trump gold over the long term. Bitcoin will blow out fiat currency because anybody who's holding their money in cash is just going to lose 6% every year, and that's period. Bitcoin will destroy bonds. Bitcoin will destroy the S&P, and it's not even playing in the same universe. And I texted my brother the other day. I told my girlfriend the other day, I was like, it feels good to be right. In 2020, because I owned Bitcoin in 2018, but in 2020 when COVID hit, I was sitting around, I was at my church talking to my friends, and I was like, yo, like this thing's at $9,000 right now. It was $11,000 at the time. I was like, this thing's going to the moon. And I know I'm right. And I was right then, and we're right again as a community because we bet on the smart thing. If you just analyze the data, Bitcoin is the game, period. Just look at the data and stack it up. If you're going to explain this to a friend, you stack it up and you go, hey, friend, all right, hey, friend, what is it about Bitcoin that you don't understand? And they'll go, well, it's not even money. It's not money. So like how could it be worth anything? It's not even based on money. And then you just go, the first question you ask your friend, go, so great. So why do you think the dollar is worth something? Well, because the dollar's backed by something. Okay, but what is the dollar backed by? They'll be like, some people still think it's backed by gold. I kid you not. We were talking to a friend the other day. It's like, yeah, it's backed by gold. No, it's not. No, it was taken off the gold standard. We were taken off the gold standard in 1971. It's not backed by gold. So what is the dollar backed by? Ask a friend that. This is how you explain to them. Because if you ever want to explain it to somebody, you got to explain the problem first. You don't go into the solution of going, hey, like you should buy Bitcoin and like it's the thing to buy. You go, what about it don't you understand? And they tell you. Great. So if Bitcoin's not backed by anything, let's just say this for a second. Great. I hear you fully. What is the dollar backed by? And they'll be like, I don't know. The dollar is backed by the good word of the U.S. government. It's backed by the trust that you have in the U.S. government, because that's what decree means. Statement. It means it is worth something because we say it's worth something. So do you fully trust that you're going to have your money in fiat or fiat type investments when it's backed by a government that says it's worth something that is $37 trillion in debt? Now, okay, that's the U.S. Go look at any other economy across the world. They have fiat too. They say that their money's worth something. And when that entire universe or world economy is been pegged to the dollar because the agreement was made back, 75 years ago or so, because we were backed by gold, it made sense for the dollar to be the world reserve currency at the time. And people are like, yes, we're going to agreement with it. It sounds good. And the other countries went into agreement with it. But now that it's not, now that the dollar's not backed by gold, all these other countries are scrambling because what are they? What's the value of their currency right now? It's backed as good as their word, and it's backed as good as the power of their government and the healthiness of their government. When you look around the world, governments aren't doing so well. So when you're explaining this to a friend, it's like, great. So now that you see this, that the cash you hold is backed by nothing. What else don't you understand about compounding? Oh, the whole how is it digital? It's like in thin air. Okay, well, great. Let's take a look at that. Because the fact that Bitcoin's in thin air, I can't touch it, I can't hold it. Everything you do right now is digital. When you go log into your bank on a daily basis, you see digital numbers on a screen. It's pixels on a screen, my friend. That's what it is. When you're sending a wire, it's digital. Right? When you're going into your stock account, it's digital. You're not sitting there with the paper certificate of your stock, sitting there like, I'm running around, my paper's worth something. Or who's walking around with cash? My girlfriend gave me $5 the other day for like parking. I'm like, I don't want your dirty fiat. Take your cash back. I don't want your cash. Right? What I'm going to do, walk around with cash? It's the weirdest thing in the world. No. So people are walking around in a digital universe today. So it's so funny. So it's like, great. So how could you, and this is, again, if you're explaining this to a friend, this is how you get a friend to start seeing the light. So how could you think in a world that's going completely digital, how could you think that gold's the future when it's a physical form? that's slow? How could you think fiat, which is paper, that's backed by nothing, is the future? How could you believe that? It doesn't make any sense. If we're online today, businesses are online today, and fundamentally you can match it up, and you can go to the number of businesses today. You talk to a business owner, are you online? Are you doing online marketing today? A lot of businesses still aren't even online. I'm online. 98% of my business is online. So in a world where businesses are moving online and digital, in a world where even your fiat that you trade in is digital, in a world that your credit cards, like you have a physical thing, that's all digitally stored. Everything's moving into the digital era. How could it be possible that Bitcoin is not the future if we are in a digital era? Money has to go digital. And the whole idea of like, oh, digital bank currency is great. You're going to have the same problem taking the same dirty fiat and doing a digital bank currency that exists with the same problem. And you're taking the same problem that's built on lies and you're putting it into a digital format. How does that solve the problem? So what is the better solution? There is not a better solution. And this is how you start to explain to your friends. You hit the problem, you hit the problem, you hit the problem, and you ask them questions to see their level of understanding. And then they realize, wow, this is a problem. The dollar's not backed by gold, right? The dollar's only as good as my government says it is, because that's what fiat currency means. The world's digital, right? And the question is the dollar scarce? Is gold fully scarce? These things are not. Dollar's definitely not scarce. We print more. Gold's not fully scarce because we mine more, and who knows how much more you have in supply. So don't you want a scarce asset, a truly scarce asset that's actually finite? And then people start to come around and they start to go, oh, wow, this starts to make sense. So then they go, well, how does this whole Bitcoin thing work? Like, explain it to me how it works. It's simple. A computer code was written. It's a protocol. It's a rule. And the rule says there's only 21 million coins. That's it. That's how it works. Well, who's going to change the rules? Like, who can change the rules? It's decentralized. Nobody's going to change the rules. You should take confidence in the fact that the government doesn't control it. The government doesn't own it. That's the beauty about Bitcoin. So now you start explaining this to your friends and they start to come around and they start to understand, like, okay, wait. So the protocol is based on making sure that it's a scarce asset and that it's a finite asset. And then you compare and you go, great. So as Bitcoin goes up over time, the dollar will lose over time. As Bitcoin goes up over time and is deflationary, right? You have assets like even gold and you have assets like bonds, and they're all going to be subject to inflation big time. Big time. So you stack those two up, and then you explain to your friend, and finally you drill the problem is. This is how you sell a friend on the concept. Of course, you don't give financial advice, but this is how you sell a friend on a concept. And you say to your friend, and you say, friend, so we get that the old world is a problem. And they go, yeah, the old world of finance is a problem. I get to see it. So if your best bet that you're being told in the marketplace today is that you're going to earn 12% in the long run, like, how do you win that game? If you're going to win 12%, and that's on a good couple decades, right? But even let's just say you earn 12%, but most of you, your parents, your grandparents, the people who are getting older, they're not all in stocks. So they're counting on 12% over the long run through stocks. Then they got a mixed portfolio with bonds that's doing 5%. So over the long run, you have people that are sitting there earning 8% over the long run when money printing is 6.5% every year. So if you're earning 8% and we're printing 6.5% more money, just by the pure fact of printing of money, the person earning 8% isn't getting ahead. They're not. And so you just blow a hole, man. You just blow a hole in the old world of fiat. You want to sell something? Just drill the problem. Make the problem burn so hard with your friends and your family, and challenge them on data points of going, great. So if you see this to be true, which you know it's true, you can go look up the money printing. The statistics from the Federal Reserve will tell you how much more money is printed every single year. For the last 100 years, go look at the statistics. It'll tell you. So if you look at the problem and you're like, yo, this is the problem, and then you burn it in so hard with people, they start to then go, now I need a solution. Because if being safe before was being right in my ideology, but if being right in my ideology means I don't survive over time, I'm probably going to change my rightness and my safety. I'm probably going to change it. Any sane person would. So we start to look at it, and then you start to talk to people about, Here's the problem, and you just stack it up. Fiat currency, only as good as the government says it is. Fiat currency, not backed by anything. Gold, 2% more is mined every year. Gold loses 80-something% of its value over 100 years. Fiat currency loses 98% of its value over 100 years. These options, the S&P 500, yeah, you're going to do 12%. You're going to have a mixed portfolio of bonds. At the end of the day, you're going to do 8%. Take out the taxes, you just lost another 20%, right? Take out the inflation, you just lost more. Take out the money printing and factor that in with the combo of the inflation, and you just lost more. And you just keep losing. And so now you want to go to compare it to the new world of money. Government doesn't control it, which is good because the government clearly does not know how to balance their checkbook because they're $37 trillion in debt in the US. The government doesn't control it, which is good because the money system's based on lies all across the world. The government doesn't control it. The banks don't control it, which is good because the banks don't even, the money you have in the bank, you don't even own the money you have in the bank. You know that, right? It's a promise to pay. You put it in the bank, it's no longer your money. It's not. You hold your Bitcoin, you're the bearer of Bitcoin. If you hold your Bitcoin and you hold it in cold storage, you're the bearer of Bitcoin, which means you're the carrier, you're the holder of Bitcoin. It's actually yours. You put it in the bank, it's just a credit. It's your money, quote unquote. I'll promise to pay you if I as a bank don't go out of business. And we just saw a couple of years ago what happened with Silicon Valley banks. There was a rush for people to withdraw their money from the banks. Some of the Silicon Valley banks failed, and the other banks had to go bail them out. So the old world, completely unsturdy, not built on truth. And when you have something that's not built on truth, it will ultimately fail. And that's what you have with our current money system. Because you can't, the only solution the government has at this point is to continue to print itself out of, continue to print more money and continue to refinance the debt. Print more money and refinance the debt. That's the solution. And until the government buys Bitcoin and buys a whole shitload of Bitcoin, we're going to have civilizations that eventually just fail. Like civilizations will just fail. Governments will just fail. I mean, we've seen it happen in Argentina, having inflation of 100% in a year. That's insane. 100% in a year. That's crazy. So the rippling effect of the number of governments that will continue to go into debt and certain governments that will go bankrupt will create a rippling effect across the world, and civilizations and governments will be in deep shit. And the people who don't own Bitcoin will be in deep shit. And, you know, you look at this, and then the other thing that I've said before, as we're zooming out, if you want to then factor in credit card debt, and you look at the average consumer on the face of the planet who's in credit card debt, and then you factor that into the equation, or any debt that somebody has, and then all of a sudden, you don't need to earn 8 to 10% just to stay afloat. It starts to factor into more like you got to earn 15 or 20% to stay afloat, depending on how much debt somebody has. So the forces working against people in the old world of money are drastic, severe, non-survival, and also it's based on a faulty system based on lies. And so we will never get to the source of, you can trace back the source of truth and go find it for yourself. You can look at when the first banks sprung up hundreds of years ago, guys, when the first banks came on, and when the first bank decided that when people put their gold into the bank, first it was initially the goldsmiths. They're like, oh, we'll put our gold with the goldsmiths because that's the business they're in, gold, right? So we'll put our gold with the goldsmiths, and people put gold with the goldsmiths. The goldsmiths held on to the gold, and they issued paper, and they said, when you want to get your gold back, come back with this paper. That's what happened. And so people took the paper and they walked around and like, oh yeah, I've got, $10 worth of gold. It's stored in the bank, but they're not walking around with their gold. The gold stored with the goldsmith. And when they want to come and they want to go get their gold back, they turn the receipt. They turn the paper back in for the gold and they get their gold back. But the goldsmiths, years ago, this was the first banking concept that happened. The goldsmiths realized years ago, they're like, oh, well, people don't actually all withdraw their money from the bank at once. So if if people aren't withdrawing their gold all at once, that means that we could actually leverage the gold. And they started turning over the gold, right? And they started creating what's called the fractional reserve lending system, which means when the bank takes in $1, the bank lends it out 9 times. So this concept of lending out money that I don't have started all the way back in the day with goldsmiths, where they started doing it. And then the banking concept started to emerge. And banks now trade in money they don't have. And that's how they make money. So if a bank can turn over the money 8 to 9 times, which is your money that you deposit, but you can only turn over your money once, how do you compete in that world? You know, you put your monetary energy, you work hard, you get to the end of the day, you have your paycheck, you put whatever you have left over. Maybe, let's say you store it in the bank. Some people put it in CDs, some people put it in bonds, wherever people pour it. And financial institutions are turning over this money, and they're using the velocity of money to multiply that money for them. But you sit there and you get a shitty 1% return in a banking account. You get maybe 4 or 5% in bonds. And, you know, the best you're going to do is great. Some financial advisor comes along and says, put that in the stock market, you earn 10% over time, which the entire world went into agreement with. I'm responsible for it for sure. I went into agreement when I was 21 years old. I was like, great, 10%, that's what you can make over time. Oh, that sounds good, until I started looking at it. Well, what's this 1% management fee? What's this money printing that's going on? What's these taxes that I have to pay? Like, what is all this? What's this credit card debt that all of a sudden springing up? And then you start to learn that 10% over time doesn't cut it. It's suicide. It's financial suicide. And so this is what happened with the system. And we went into agreement and we all decided that, yeah, 10%, 12% is going to be good over time. And maybe as they started, printing more money, and then that money went back into investable assets like the S&P 500. Because if you look at it 2 decades ago, the S&P 500 wasn't doing 14% over time. That's slowly, incrementally gone up over the years, where now the S&P over the last 5 years has done much better. But over the last decade or so, go look at the returns, about 14%. So slowly that's gone up. It wasn't like that 2 decades ago. But it's gone up a little bit, and people are like, oh, now I'm getting 12 to 14%. This is good, versus 10% being a good rate of return. Now I'm 12 to 14%. Well, all of that's really well and good, but when you look at the money printing in 2020 and 2021, if the S&P was returning 10% at one time, and now let's say it's returning 14% over a decade, the money supply went up by 40% from 2021 to 2020, 2021. So 10% to 14% is a 40% gain. It's a 40% increase. So the S&P is not actually doing any better. It's just going up concurrently in relation to the amount that the money supply went up. So somebody's like, well, today, if you look at the last decade of the S&P, it's maybe 14%, it's maybe more. Yeah, but you're not doing any better because they printed the money. So the apparency is 2 decades ago, 10% was good. Well, now I'll accept 14%. That'll be good. But that ain't good because you still ain't getting ahead because the money supply went up. So it doesn't make any sense. So these little increments of like, oh, now look at how well the S&P is doing. The S&P ain't doing well. Not doing well comparatively to all the things we just talked about. It's not. So what is doing well? Bitcoin's doing well. So you sit down and you have that conversation with anybody, and you stack up the logic of the actual fiat currency, the logic of bonds, the logic of the S&P 500, the logic of money printing, the logic of management fees, the logic of credit card debt, and you stack all this up in a row and you go, this is what the current money system has created. And and all these factors, they're feeding off your monetary energy. The credit card companies feed off you. The people who take the management fees feed off you. The IRS feeds off you with taxes, right? The government feeds off you with printing more money. It's an invisible tax inflation. It steals your money. You don't even know it's being stolen. It's the invisible theft. Every single piece and every single thing that we mentioned there is feeding off your monetary energy and is literally stealing your monetary energy. And you stack that up and you have a conversation with any sane person and you look at this, because this is not logical. It is not logical at all. And when you start to challenge people on it, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get illogical responses, because the only thing that you can get when you talk to somebody who's based a system completely on illogics is a rebuttal or a reaction on illogic. And that's what you'll get. And they'll use some terminology and they'll tell you all these things and they'll say, oh my God, like here's the reason why it's so. It's because of the quantitative easing program that was developed in 2021. In fact, is here for the delta and here for the theta and here for the this and here for the that. And that's why the government is doing this, because we have decided that it's this so. And they use all this terminology to confuse you, because when you challenge the system, the only thing they can do is make it more confusing for you so you can't get to the source of the truth of the lie. And that's what's being done to people all across the world. So do you think it's time for a better solution? And then you sit there, and if you continue to ask your question, you continue to challenge that person who will give you a strong viewpoint, and they will tell you with absolute certainty why this old money system makes sense and why your new idea of Bitcoin doesn't make any sense. And they'll give you a strong opinion on it, which is based on bullshit. And if you ask the question and you continue to ask the question and you get your question answered, because people who are living in a system that's based on illogics and non-truths, they don't want to answer the question. But if you continue to ask the question and you stack up all the things that I told you and you challenge people on it in a very nice way, and you challenge and you get your question answered, you will get an answer from them and you'll finally get to the truth and you will get people to see it. And then once they see the truth, if you're persistent with your line of questioning to show them, they will eventually see the truth. And then they will see the logic of what the old financial system is based on, which is nothing. No logic whatsoever. Zero. Zilch. Because it's not based on truth. And then you bring them over to the new island of money, which is Bitcoin, and you literally sit there and you stack it up. And you go, great. So now let me challenge your old money system with my new money system. If you can't get ahead with 10, 12% rates of return in the old money system, and this asset is on 56% a year for the last 4 years, if this asset potentially could do 29% a year for the next 21 years and double the S&P, where would you rather be? Well, how do you know it's going to do 29%? It's a new asset. It may not do that. Yeah. But if it is truly a finite asset that's only going to get more valuable over time, and people are literally going to be going to war in terms of financial war, being like, I need your Bitcoin. I need your Bitcoin. Watch what happens in 10 years when there's hardly any Bitcoin left. I mean, shit, there's what, 1.6 million Bitcoins still left on the planet. There's 19.6 million is already bought. So there's 1.4 million left. The issuing supply of 450 a day is being gobbled up. Everything that's issued is gobbled up. The OTCs, the desk, you look at the graph, the amount of Bitcoin they have is declining. The graph is straight down. It's declining. So what do you think is going to happen to an asset that is truly scarce, truly in demand? Corporations are buying the hell out of this thing. Governments are rushing in. States are rushing in. And it truly is based on the digital world, which is the new world. Who wants to live in the old world that's based on physical things? That's not the world we're in anymore. It doesn't exist anymore in terms of finance. It doesn't even exist in businesses. Businesses are online today. It's all moving digital. Everything stacks up with the logic, the trends, the momentum of exactly where we are going, which is Bitcoin. That's it. It's the bottom line. That's where we're at. That's the world that we're in. And over time, it gets more valuable. And this is the beauty. So now you sit down and you tell a friend this and watch how they respond to that. Well, yeah, but I can't touch my stuff. And like, how do I know somebody's not gonna blow up the entire blockchain? The blockchain, you know the number of computers that the blockchain is backed by. The security of the blockchain has never been hacked. The Bitcoin blockchain has never been hacked. It's secure. If the Bitcoin blockchain gets hacked, we got bigger problems, my friends. Okay, we got bigger problems. You're going to have to start worrying about companies like Amazon and Google as well. So we have a sound ecosystem here. We have a sound financial instrument for the first time. We have the idea that a central organization that controls it will destroy it, because left to the group, they'll destroy it. And so now we have a organization based on protocols, based on truth, based on logic, that is not going to be changed and altered by a human being. Now, will people buy more of it? Will traditional financial systems come in and manipulate it and trade and do all these things? Yes, but the root, the basis of truth that it's based on is not going to be changed. And that's the wonderful thing about it. And that's why we love it. And then you take into account MSTR and you look at the #1 corporation on the face of the planet that owns the most Bitcoin and continuously buys Bitcoin week after week, week after week, week after week, except this week, but next week they will, I'm sure. And they keep buying and they keep buying and they keep buying. And you look at the corporate future and you look at the future of this company and you look at the number of corporations that are hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet moving into the future. And it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And the number of governments that are going to rush in, because one day Bitcoin is just going to be a terminology, just like people say, hey, we're backing some of our currency by gold. That's what that was the idea in 1971, 1941, 44 with the Bretton Woods Agreement. It's just going to become a standard thing where people are just backing things with Bitcoin. Hell, you can go to a bank now, and it's now been passed that Bitcoin actually can be used to get a mortgage because it's considered a real asset now. So if companies are allowing you to use it as leverage to get houses in terms of the housing marketplace, if governments are putting it on their balance sheet, if corporations are putting it on their balance sheet, like what individual on planet Earth who sees this trend is not going to sit there and stack it up and go, this makes sense to me? It's only the person who's spiraling towards death and literally wants to commit financial suicide. And there are some people out there who are just so low and are such an apathy, but where they're just like, they've just given up hope. Okay, but we can still save them. We can still help them by giving them the truth. And one could say that planet Earth is in apathy in finance. I don't think it gets any closer to apathy. It doesn't. I mean, you look at planet Earth, the number of people who are in debt, the number of people that can't afford houses today, the number of people that can't send their kids to school. It's like it's the amount of poverty in the world, the amount of credit card debt that people have. Like we have a world that in finance, I could look at the basic tone level of planet Earth and go, yeah, I think we have a civilization that's probably in apathy in finance. And then we have people that are waking up to Bitcoin that are getting into hope and they're getting excited and getting enthusiastic because they're finally getting truth. That's the only way you come up out of apathy is you get some truth. And that's what we got going on. So with that said, zoom out, look at the big picture. It's great news that we hit all-time highs. It's great news to have a $7,000 pump. But you look out long-term, where are we going to be in a decade? And I want to start basing decisions also of the future. And of course, I want the long-term. Of course, short-term, I want to take some profits during the bull run with MSTR. I mean, of course, I want to take some profits. I want some lifestyle chips. I want to go do some things. That's great. I want to invest in some new companies that I have. Great. Those are all well and good. But zooming out, holding Bitcoin long-term, like it is like it's the asset. And it will be here 20 years from now. And it will be leading the way again 20 years from now. And so that's what we have, and that's what we have as a community. So congratulations on your rightness. Congratulations on getting out of the financial trap. Congratulations on seeing through that the traditional financial system is not based on truth. Congratulations on seeing through the fact that system is not set up for us to win. It's set up for the 0.0001% of the planet to win in the game, and it's set up for that group to win, but it's not set up for 99% of the planet to win. It's just not. And it's never been set up that way. And so we finally have an opportunity as a group to go out of group agreement with this bullshit about 10% rates of return that doesn't get anybody ahead long term, and to go into agreement with the idea that this new sound form of money, Bitcoin, could change people's lives and to create a new economy with a new group of people who sees the future, who understands truth, who wants to do good for humanity. And that's what this is. And this is a shift. And thank goodness. And thanks to all of you, because it takes a village, it takes a planet, it takes a large percentage of people who see the truth and are willing to go into the truth, even though it's not popular, because people sometimes want to stay safe in the lie. And so now that it's true, and we know it's been true since Bitcoin has come out, but it's never been popularly accepted and widely adopted and widely gone into agreement with. So we are on the precipice of a full financial shift where the world can start to win and people can start to be financially free. So well done to you all. Have a great rest of your day. Congratulations. Well done, right? Well done, because you got to take hats off to you, because it's people like you who push the price up because you're holding it or you're investing in it. Without people like you, without the community, this doesn't exist. So well done to you. Take a bow. Have a great rest of the day. Have an incredible weekend. Enjoy your wins and your gains going into the weekend, and enjoy your like, I really want to acknowledge your rightness, how right you are, Super, 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 super well done. Have a great rest of the day. Talk to you soon.